Well, good evening, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight is my 5th week of Roots Music Wednesday, and it's my last one for a while. It's such a beautiful night out. It seems like it's a shame to be indoors doing this, but yeah, lots of time to get out there and go camping and play music and social distance with all kinds of good people. And today I'm going to be singing you some Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger tunes. And thanks for tuning in. And thanks last week to my guest Ricky Riccardi and Hans Nielsen from the Hotel Crittenden, Ricky Riccardi from the Louis Armstrong House Museum. We had a good time talking about Louis Armstrong and Fats Waller and the Hotel Crittenden. And yeah, this is my last one for a little while. This week we got special guest David Bernz, who is a musician, plays in a band called The Work of the Weavers, was a good friend of Pete Seeger's and a producer of some of his albums, and owns a music shop in Beacon, New York called Main Street Music, Jake's Main Street Music. And our other guest is Bob McLennan from the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation. I'm going to get right started with a Woody tune for you. Well, I ain't got no home now, I'm just rambling round. Hard-working, rambling man, I roam downtown. Police make it hard wherever I may go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. My brothers and my sisters are stranded on this road. It's a hot and dusty cold at a million feet of drive. Well, a rich man took my home and drove me from my door. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Always I was poor. My crops I lay into a paper store. Well, my wife took down and died on the cabin floor. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I'm minding your minds and I gathered in your corn. I've been working this since the day I was born. Now I worry all the time like never before. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Wide and whipple world is a funny place to be. Well, gambling man is rich and the working man is poor. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. No, I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Hard working rambling man, I roam from downtown. Well, the police make it hard wherever I may go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Oh, thank you, folks. Thank you, folks. Some of my favorite people, I'm singing some of their tunes today. It's a little hot out. I'm gonna tune up real quick. I tuned them all before. It's hard to pick a bunch of tunes. So many good tunes from Woody and Pete. I've been boy Floyd, outlaw, blowing new flashy overheard. Well, the pretty boy grabbed his log chain, and the deputy grabbed his gun, and in the fight that followed, he laid that deputy down. Took to the trees and timber, all on the river shore, hiding on the river bottom, never come back no more. Took to the trees and timber, to live life of shame. Every crime in Oklahoma was added to his name. But many a starving farmer, the same old story told, how the outlaw paid their mortgage and saved their little home. Others tell about a stranger that comes to beg a meal, and underneath his napkin a $1,000 bill. It was in Oklahoma City, it was on Christmas Day. There was a whole carload of groceries, come with a note to say, well, he said it out an outlaw, he said it out a thief. Here's Christmas dinner for the families on relief. As through this world I've wandered, I've seen lots of funny men. Some rob you with a 6-gun, some with a fountain pen. And through this world you travel, yes, through this world you roam. You'll never see an outlaw drive a family from their home. All right. Yeah, there's a great quote by Woody that says a liberal is a feller that would like to get his hands on something to give the poor. Some money to give to them. Great tune called Pretty Boy Floyd. I'm going to come say hi on these comments. How's everybody doing? Thanks for tuning in. You're looking dapper, Nathan. You so much. Thanks for saying that, Radwald. How you doing, buddy? Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. All right. I'm going to continue playing a couple songs, and then I'm going to tell you a little history about Woody. But let me grab the right harmonica here. Yeah, I was a little bummed out last week after my live stream was a little choppy. But if you ever want to revisit any of these live streams, my friend Kenneth helped me put them on YouTube, and so they'll all be archived there. And yeah. This was my Hey, thank you, folks. What's up, Bob? How you doing, man? Been a minute. Hey, Lazara, how are you? What's up, Pam? Hey, Jim, thanks for tuning in every week. I got my camera fixed up a little bit this week using a different device. I'm going to have a sip of water, and then I'm going to do what I like to call my book report, you know? Well, yeah, folks, I've been having a lot of fun doing these things, and yeah, it's been good, and I'm gonna take a break for a while, but I'll still do a few live streams, but I'm gonna take a break from Roots Music Wednesday for a while, and it was really fun, and it kept me focused and reading about things I loved, and it's been really fun. So thanks for your continued support and tuning in. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Woody Guthrie, and then I'm going to play one more or two more songs, and then I'm going to give Bob McLennan a phone, and we're going to talk about our featured venue this week, which is the Sportsman's Tavern and the Sportsman's Americana Music Foundation, and we'll talk to him a little bit about that. And then the second portion of the program today, I'm going to be talking about Pete Seeger, and singing some Pete Seeger songs. And we're going to have David Bernz on the program, a fella I met down in Beacon, who was one of his producers and his friends, and played in a band called Work of the Weavers, which is a kind of a tribute band to the Weavers, Pete Seeger's band. And yeah, so Woody Guthrie was born July 14th in 1912 in Oklahoma. He had kind of a rough childhood. He moved to Texas with an extended family when he was young, and learned the guitar and the harmonica. He had 3 significant fires early in his life, and it seemed to be a theme that went on through his life. There's a great book that Woody wrote called Bound for Glory. And it's one of my favorite books. I don't have a copy, or I would show you a copy of it right now. I think I gave mine away. I think I've had a couple copies over the years, and I've always given them away to people because it's such a good book, and I highly recommend you check out Woody Guthrie's autobiography, Bound for Glory. And yeah, so in the 1930s, Woody prepared a songbook, an early one, of original songs, as well as he began composing Dust Bowl ballads. And in the late 30s, he moved to Los Angeles and began performing on the radio, doing hillbilly songs. And he lived with migrants and wrote songs about their living situation, and was commissioned for these trips to go and write songs and check it out. And he later had a column in a communist newspaper called Woody Says. And although he fraternized with all these groups, I don't think that he ever really belonged to any one of them. He just kind of performed for them and moved around them. And then in 1940, he moved to New York City. And he wrote This Land Is Your Land, and he met Leadbelly and Alan Lomax and Pete Seeger at a benefit for agricultural workers that his friend and actor set up for. It was a part of John Steinbeck's book, The Grapes of Wrath Evening. He also recorded 4 hours of songs and stories at that time for the Library of Congress Archive of American Folk Songs, and he began to write that book, Bound for Glory, at that time. And he recorded Dust Bowl ballads for Victor shortly after that. And in 1941, he was commissioned to write about the Bonneville Dam on the Columbia River in Washington State. And he composed 26 songs in 30 days, like Roll on Columbia, Grand Coulee Dam, and many others. After that, he joined the Almanac Singers, a band that he was in with Pete Seeger. for a cross-country tour. And then he moved to Greenwich Village and performed and lived with the Almanacs in a cooperative house. And they were writing peace songs. But then after Pearl Harbor, they started writing anti-fascist songs. And so in 1943, Bound for Glory was published, and he joined the Merchant Marines. He was a messman, and he entertained the troops. He tried to write the government and become a USO performer, but that didn't seem to work out. So someone told him about the Merchant Marines, and he set out in 1943 for the first of 3 voyages. He moved back to New York and moved to Mermaid Avenue in Coney Island. There's a great collection of unreleased lyrics and songs and poems that Billy Bragg and Wilco put out called Mermaid Avenue, and they put music to his unfinished writings about songs and stuff he wrote during that time. In 1944, he met Moses Ash, and he recorded "This Land Is Your Land," as well as over 100 other songs. In 1945, a year later, they released the Ash recordings, and he was inducted into the Army, and he got married on furlough. Woody also wrote lots of children's songs and did lots of doodling and painting, and towards the end of his life, and he was diagnosed with Huntington's in 1952, and Pete Seeger started touring around colleges and getting people more familiar with Woody's music, and a young Bob Dylan even visited Woody Guthrie in 1961, I think, and it's said that Ramblin' Jack Elliott taught Bob Dylan how to act like Woody Guthrie, because Ramblin' Jack spent some time on Woody's couch, Woody passed away in October of 1962, and he left behind a great mass of work, some incredible songs, and kind of paved the way for, I would say, protest music and folk music and folk punk music and rock and roll, and he was a serious icon and a giant of folk music, and one of my very favorites. I'm gonna do a few more songs, and then I'm gonna give Bob a call, and we're gonna talk about the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation, which is a great local foundation helping kids get instruments and etc. But I'll let Bob tell us a little bit more about that. And I'm really excited to have Mr. David Bernz coming on the program a little later. We're going to talk about Pete Seeger. Here's a song that, the thing about Woody's tunes is that they're all so timeless, it seems like, and it was hard to pick just a few tunes, but this one seemed important, and I don't know, in the age of border walls and immigration bans, and he wrote this song a long time ago, and it was about some migrants whose names don't get remembered. my father's own father, he waded that river. They took all the money, made in his life. My brothers and sisters came working the fruit trees and rode on the truck till they lay down and died. Some of us are illegal and some of us are not wanted. Our work contract's out and we have to move on. 600 miles to that Mexican border. They chase us like outlaws, like rustlers, like thieves. Goodbye to my one, goodbye Rosalita. Adios mi amigos, Isabel Maria. Now you won't have no name when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deported. Well, we died in your hills and we died in your deserts and we died in your valleys. We died on your plains. We died beneath your trees and we died in your bushes, both sides of the river. We died just the same. Goodbye to my home, goodbye Rosalita. Adios mi amigos and Isabel Maria. You won't have no name when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deported. Well, the sky plane caught fire over Los Gatos Canyon. A fireball of lightning that shook all our hills. Who are these friends all scattered like dry leaves? The radio says they're just deportees. Is this the best way we can grow our big orchards? Is this the best way we can grow our good fruit? To fall like dry leaves and rot on the topsoil, only be called, and to be called by no name except deportee. Goodbye to my home, goodbye Rosalita. Adios mi amigos, Jesus and Maria. You won't have no names when you ride the big airplanes. All they'll call you will be deported. All they will call you will be deported. Deportee. Someone ought to sing that one for President Trump. All right, here's another one. This one's about traveling to California to get out of the Dust Bowl. It's called Do Re Mi. Back east, they say, is leaving their homes every day to make no old dust way to the California line. Across the desert sands, they roll their head out to that dust bowl. Well, they think they're going to a sugar bowl, and here's what they find. Police at the port of entry said, you're number 14,000 for today. And if you ain't got no do-re-mi, boys, you ain't got no do-re-mi, you better go back to beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee. California is a garden of Eden, a paradise to live in or to see. But believe it or not, you're gonna find it so hot if you ain't got no do-re-mi. No harm or take your vacation by the mountains or the sea. Don't swap your old cow for a car, you better stay right where you are. You better take this little tips from me, cause I look through the want ads every day with the headlines in the papers all say, you ain't got no do-re-mi, boys, you ain't got no do-re-mi. Yeah, you better go back to beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee. California is a garden of Eden, a paradise to live in or to see. But believe it or not, you'll find it so high if you ain't got no door in me. If you ain't got no door in me. If you ain't got no door in me. Do re mi. All right. Well, here's one you might have sung in school. Whoo-wee. It's warm in here, huh? To the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. When the sun came shining and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, and the fog was lifting and a voice was chanting, this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking and I saw a sign there, and on the sign it said, no trespassing, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. Woody wrote this song when they were overplaying God Bless America by Irving Berlin on the radio. And originally this song was called God Bless America for You and Me. But he changed it around and it became the famous song we all know today. But imagine hearing a song on the radio that you're kind of sick of, and then just writing your own retort to it, and then it becomes this song. In shadow of the steeple, I saw my people. By the relief office, I seen my people. As they stood there hungry, they stood there asking, was this land made for you and me? Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can make me turn back. But this land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. You and me, everybody. Yeah, those last couple verses were sometimes omitted in the versions that schools sang, but I think they're the best two verses. About poor people and trespassing. All right, I got two more tunes. Or wait, I got one more tune. One more tune and then we're gonna give Bob McLennan a call. And yeah, this is a song Woody and Pete did a lot of singing for the labor movement, and helped get people organized, and they played for protests, and you know, they were adapting old melodies and putting their own words to them, and writing these kind of protest tunes and union songs. This is probably the most famous one, based on a traditional melody. I think the song's called Red Wing. It's an old-time song called Red Wing, and this is called Union Maid. When a meeting it was called, the company boys came around, she always stood her ground. Now you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union. No, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union, till the day I die. Well, the union maid was wise to the tricks of the company spies. She never got fooled or a company stool, she'd always manage to organize the guy. Always got her way and struck for higher pay. Show her card, the company guard, and this is what they'd say. Nah, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union. Nah, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union, till the day I die. Take a little tip from me. Get you a union man, join the ladies auxiliary. Married life ain't hard when you got a union card. The union man has a happy life when he's got a union wife. Nah, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union. Nah, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union, till the day I die. Alright, let's give Bob McLennan a call. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to comment and tell me if you're enjoying it, and tell me where you're watching from, and et cetera, et cetera. And I appreciate your time. And yeah. Let's see here. Gotta find. Oops. So how's everybody doing out there? All right, we're going to talk about the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation. I don't know what I would do without the Sportsman's Tavern. It's one of my favorite places ever, and I've been living down the road from that place for about, I don't know, 5, 6 years, 7 years, and it's just been a great place to meet people, and I've gotten a lot of really cool opportunities through the place, and I just love them so much, and I am glad that there is a Americana music community foundation right down the street from where I live, and we're gonna give Mr. Bob McLennan a call right now and talk to him about it.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Uh-oh, we gotta put the area code in. That might work. Let me know if you can hear him, everyone.
Hello, I'm here.
Hey, Bob, how are you, man?
Hey, Tyler, how you doing? Great show.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me for a second. Yeah, I just wanted to, feature the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation and the Sportsmens, and I've been doing a different venue each week, and that has kind of helped me out on my musical journey, and you guys are some of my favorite people over there, and you're doing good things. So tell me a little bit about the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation and how long you've been involved and what you do there.
All right, so it was a perfect night because it's Pete Seeger and Guthrie. I spent my life in the labor movement.
I know you're a union man. I kind of did that on purpose, Bob.
Yeah. Well, with the Sportsmens, if most people listening probably know about it, but if not, that'll be great if we got some new people here. And we've been around for 6 years, just about 6 years. We've been incorporated as a nonprofit, and we started obviously at the Sportsman's Tavern, and I was the president for about 5 years of the foundation, and I stepped down in February, but I'm still on the board of directors. Jason Hall has taken over being the president of the foundation for the time being. And we've had a lot of great board members through the years that have helped a lot, build the organization to where it is right now. And, our mission statement really says it all, what we're here for. To foster, promote, and expand community appreciation for Americana music from Buffalo and Western New York through the production and sponsorship of performance and broadcast events and presentation of seminars and workshops on Americana music.
That's a beautiful thing.
And that's what we do with live music, with all different sizes, from events in little clubs to big concerts and parks and everything like that, and to the education, where we've got all kinds of education things going on with kids, teaching them how to play guitars or teaching them to appreciate Americana music, or I know Helen Whitney and Timmy Pitcher did a great series for a while over at the International School. And they had a bunch of kids playing bass guitar and playing drums who, completely from other countries. There's a lot of immigrant communities. So that was really a cool way to expand what we're trying to offer up with our memberships.
Right. Well, I'm a card-carrying member myself, and there's all kinds of perks if you become a member. Not to mention you're just helping out, get instruments into the hands of kids, and there's all kinds of benefits. Like small businesses, like I get a discount at Allentown Music and other restaurants and places, and they're just doing good things. And another great thing, I'm grateful for the Sportsman's Foundation for helping me out with my events too. That you guys have helped sponsor Folk Faces Fest the last couple years, and I appreciate that so very much. And thank you. And
that's right up our alley. That's the kind of fest to expand Americana music.
Bringing roots music artists to the area, right? So how is lockdown affecting you and the Sportsman's Americana Music Foundation, and how have you guys adapted, and what can we do to help? And
well, just like all the musicians and the bars and the taverns and music venues, everything's been shut down. It came to a screeching halt, of course, and what you guys can do to help is what you're doing. I mean, I tune in a lot to the Facebook concerts and sometimes with national people, but we want to stay in touch with our local people. So we watch a lot of what you guys do, and we want to keep in touch with you that way. But having that's really a hole in your life when your live music is a big part of my wife and I's life, and all of a sudden it's gone. You take it for granted, like it's never going to go away, and you go out several times a week seeing great live music, and you just love the sense of community and unity with friends and family and even strangers, out seeing live music. And it's really been a hole here in our life to have that disappear on us. And but the day's going to come when we're going to be back out there.
It's true. It'll happen.
We hope people continue to support the foundation. Some people have taken a hit, of course, financially. So if you stay a member, it's inexpensive. And that's one of the unique things about us. We have, at our high point, about 500 dues-paying members. So it's like an open shop unit here. And people are re-upping their membership every year just because they want to be part of it. And it's really a unique combination of live music and education. And one of the keys to make this a Western New York foundation, as opposed to just in Blacklock, has been from our founder, Dwayne Hall. He's a tavern owner at the nationwide. People know about the Sportsman's Tavern. It's a legendary place. But he started this foundation, and the idea was to make it all for Western New York. So we help other venues that are not the Sportsman's Tavern. We get support from, and we support other venues as much as we can throughout the city and the suburbs. And well, as you mentioned, your thing out there in Darien Center, your festival. So it's the Dwayne's leadership has led us to make this foundation a full-blown Western New York organization, as opposed to just pigeonholed in one neighborhood or anything like that. So we're really proud of what we've accomplished, and the only way we've accomplished any of it was with our membership, though. So, like I said, we gotta keep our membership up, and we can't wait to get going as soon as the world gets back to something close to normal. We should have been giving away our jazz scholarship to a kid from the Buffalo schools at this point. We're really excited about our library series in the Buffalo and Erie County Public Libraries, and all that got put on hold for now. So we're looking forward to getting everything back going as soon as we possibly can.
Well, so that's what you can do to support the Sportsmens and the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation, is you can re-up on your membership, and you can support local roots music when things open up again, and invite your friends to do the same. And Bob, could you please share a special memory or a favorite performance or just a story that comes to mind about, pertaining to the Sportsmens or the Americana Music Foundation? Just a little bit you could share with us.
Well, my favorite event, and you'd probably guess it, is the last waltz that we have every year in November. That was really something when we kicked it off in 2017, which was a great year for us. Doug Yeomans was about Robbie Robinson and our band leader. We put together a great show, and we got a sold-out house, and it opened with the first couple songs by the band in the last waltz, and everything was going great. But I knew that first performance from Buck Quigley as Ronnie Hawkins was going to be a make-or-break performance, because it was going to tell people you're in for something completely different. Right. And he nailed it, standing ovations, and
good.
It just took off from there. So every year, the last waltz is a terrific event for us. And 2017 was also big for Silo City. Leroy Towns and Tencent Howell came up with this idea, doing some shows at Silo City, which, of course, you played them as well.
I did.
And that same year, that was in July, and then in September, we had a big one at Riverfest Park.
Right.
So those two festivals together, we drew over 2,500 people at those two festivals, and really kind of put us on the map. So all that together was a really cool thing for us.
That Sportsman, the Foundation Fest at Sportsman's Park, Open Sportsman's Park, was a great time as well.
Yeah, we're looking for, we've got a date on that, and, the world's up in the air right now. We don't know what's going to happen. We're looking at the Saturday of Labor Day weekend was going to be our festival in the park, Sportsman's Park.
Right.
And so we'll see what happens with that.
We shall see.
We're not sure yet.
We shall see. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Bob. I appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for doing what you're doing out in the community, and I'm sure we'll be hanging out and having a few beers, watching a great band very soon.
Well, thanks for playing Pete and Woody. One quick story. When I saw Pete Seeger once, and we were at the Obama inauguration in 2008. We're out there in the middle of 1 million people, and we're watching Pete Seeger up there on the screen, and some kids behind us, like in their early 20s, say, they were talking about, hey, who is that? Who's that old guy up there? And just as I was about to tell them, one of the kids said to the other one, "Oh, I know who that is. That's Willie Nelson." So we had to explain to them who they were really seeing
Nice.
out there. That was
Nice.
It was pretty cool.
That's funny. That's a great story. Well, thanks so much for your time, Bob, and I appreciate you being a guest today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon when we can, and thanks, man. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks for including us, Tyler.
Yeah. See you later. That was Bob McLennan from the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation. All right, I'm going to play you some Pete Seeger tunes now, folks. Yes. There's a famous quote from Pete about something about how if he could play anything, he wishes he could play 12-string guitar like Leadbelly. And this next song I'm going to do for you, he made a hit with the Weavers, and he rewrote an old folk song that Leadbelly did. It wasn't for Dickie, and it's about a dead milk cow. And Pete rewrote it and wrote these words to it: "Kiss is sweeter than wine," and made a hit out of it. And yeah, so here it goes. When I was a young man, I'd never been kissed. I got to thinking it over, all I had missed. And I got me a gal, and I kissed her, and then, oh Lord, I kissed her, and then we had kisses sweeter than wine. Kisses sweeter than wine. Asked her to marry and to be my sweet wife, so that we could be happy for all of our lives. Begged and I needed like a natural man until, oh Lord, she gave me her hand. We had kisses sweeter than wine. Kisses sweeter than wine. Well, we worked very hard, me and my wife working hand in hand to have a good life. We had born in the field and we lived in until, oh Lord, was the father of twins. And we had kisses sweeter than wine. Oh, kisses sweeter than wine. Well, our children, they numbered at just about 4, and they all had sweethearts knocking on the door. Well, they talk to you a little bit about Mr. Pete Seeger. Hey, Paul, how are you? What's going on? Who else is out there? Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Oh, man, I just saw all these comments. Do I know Stu Ball? I do know Stu Ball. Yeah, that's a great song. So if you're just wandering in, we're talking about Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie. We just had Bob McLennan on the phone, and we spoke about the Sportsmen's Americana Music Foundation. I sang a bunch of Woody Guthrie songs in the first set, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Pete Seeger. And Pete Seeger was born May 3rd, 1919 in New York City. He was a songwriter and a naturalist and a labor activist and a peace advocate who wrote a few chart-busting songs like Goodnight Irene, Turn, 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 Where Have All the Flowers Gone. He was a founding member of the Weavers. And he was a huge figure during the civil rights movement and popularized the song We Shall Overcome. He was born into a musical family, and he attended Harvard but dropped out. He hopped trains and hitchhiked in the 30s and moved around quite a bit. In 1940, he organized the Almanac Singers, a band that he played with Woody Guthrie. The band stopped performing when he was conscripted in 1942, and after 3 years, 3 years later, he founded Sing Out magazine when he came back and continued singing folk songs. In 1950, the Almanac Singers reformed as the Weavers and had a string of hits. But in 1953, they were blacklisted. And the House of Un-American Activities had Pete come, and they tried to get him to rat out all his buddies, but it did not work. And he neither pleaded the fifth or gave away any of his friends. He just said that he performed songs for all kinds of people at all kinds of places, and he was vocal and spoke out about many issues, including the Vietnam War and Lyndon Johnson. He released an album called Dangerous Songs in 1966, and Waist Deep in the Big Muddy a year later. And from 1965 to 1966, he hosted a folk music series called Rainbow Quest, and you can watch some of those on YouTube, and they are wonderful with guests like Mississippi John Hurt and Roscoe Holcomb and Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. He won 5 Grammys. Best Musical Album for Children. He won a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award in 1993 for his contributions to music, and 2 for Best Traditional Folk Album. He also was presented with the George Peabody Medal in 2013 for exceptional contributions to American music. He passed away peacefully at age 94 in his Beacon home in January 2014. One great thing that Pete Seeger did was he sang a bunch of other people's songs and popularized songs by Woody Guthrie and Melvina Reynolds and Hoodie Ledbetter. So here's a Melvina Reynolds song that he popularized. Boxes made of ticky-tacky and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they're all just the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they're all just the same. They all look just the same. When the people in the houses all go to university, where they all get put in boxes and they all come out just the same. And there's doctors and there's lawyers and business executives, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. And they all play golf on golf course and drink their martinis dry, and they all have pretty children. All the children go to school and the children go to summer camp and then to university, where they're all put in boxes and they all come out the same. Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes, little boxes all the same. There's a red one and a yellow one and a pink one and a blue one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they're all just the same. And the boys go into business and marry and raise a family, and the boxes are made of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one. They're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes all the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they're all just the same. Little boxes. Melvin Reynolds. Where have all the graveyards gone? Covered in flowers ask everyone, when will they ever learn? When will they I'm glad you're enjoying it, Mr. Scott Russell. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, so far. I've been having a good time myself. So I think that Pete was, correct me if I'm wrong. So, like, I'm not a historian, as you can probably see, but I just enjoy a little bit of this history. And so if I'm wrong on any of these points, you just let me know, you know? And I'd like to do a song that Pete wrote called My Rainbow Race. And this tune, it's a beautiful song, but Pete, I believe, was he made up the plans for the long neck banjo. So if you can imagine a banjo that's even longer than this one, you know, it's an extra 4 frets or so. But yeah, he built his own, well, sent his own blueprints. And but anyways, here's My Rainbow Race. Ocean lapping all our shores, one earth so green and round. Who could ask for more? And because I love you, I give it one more try to show my rainbow race. It's too soon to say die. Some folks choose to live like an ostrich, bury their heads in the sand. Some hope that plastic dreams can unclench their greedy hands. Some hope to take the easy way out, poisons and bombs, they think we need 'em. Don't you know you can't kill all the unbelievers, and there's no shortcuts to freedom. One blue sky above us, one ocean lapping all our shores, one earth so green and round. Who could ask for more? And because I love you, I'll give it one more try to show my rainbow race. It's too soon to say die. All the little children, tell the mothers and fathers too. Now's the last chance to learn to share what's been given to me and you. One blue sky above us, one ocean lapping all our shores, one earth so green and round. Who could ask for more? I love you, I'll give it one more try to show my rainbow race. It's too soon to say die. Here's a song called The Banks Are Made of Marble that I used to sing at Occupy Wall Street. shining shore, and it really made me wonder at the things I heard and saw. I saw the weary miner scrubbing coal dust from his back, and I heard his children crying, got no coal to heat the shack. Now the banks are made of marble with a guard at every door, and the vaults are stuffed with silver that the miner sweated for. I've seen the weary seaman standing idly by the shore, and I've heard his bosses saying, got no work for you no more. But the banks are made of marble with a guard at every door, and the vaults are stuffed with silver that the seaman sweated for. I've seen my brothers working all throughout this glorious land, and I prayed we'd get together to make a stand. And then we'd own those banks of marble with a guard at every door. We'd share those vaults of silver that we all sweated for. Right. Well, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about Pete Seeger, and earlier in the stream I was talking about Woody Guthrie, and we had Bob McLennan on the phone earlier. And if you're not familiar with Pete Seeger, he left behind an incredible body of work, as did Woody Guthrie, and I was lucky enough to see Pete Seeger perform twice before he passed away, and he's been a huge influence on me and my writing and my music, and I got to see him at the Western New York Peace Center dinner at the Convention Center here in Buffalo, and then a week later I went to Beacon, New York to see him perform at the Town Crier. It was the 65th anniversary of the Weavers, and that's the first time I didn't meet him, but I saw our next guest, and I'm going to call him on the phone right now, and his name is David Bernz, and he's a producer. Well, he produced a few of Pete's records, and he also has a band that I saw. They're called The Work of the Weavers, and I met him when the band Folk Faces came through on tour, and we hung with him at his music shop, and let's get him on the phone now. Hello, David. This is Tyler Westcott. How are you?
Hi, Tyler. I'm okay. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much for doing this today. I know I got you kind of last minute, and I appreciate you taking the time and being so generous. And say thanks to Jake, too, for relaying the message.
I did.
All right. Well, I've just been singing some Woody tunes and some Pete tunes. I just got done singing The Banks Are Made of Marble. But
that's a good one.
Yeah, I used to sing that one at Occupy Wall Street. But
written by a fellow named Les Rice, who lived about 15 miles from me, across the river from me.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know who wrote that one. Yeah, so we randomly met that one time. I was just saying that I saw Pete twice in my life, once at the convention center in Buffalo, and the second time was at the 65th anniversary of the Weavers, and you were performing at the Town Crier. Work of the Weavers was playing, and yeah, that
I
was.
remember that night well.
And I was sitting at the bar, and Pete walked in with 2 canes, and I think I put my hand out, very eager to shake his hand, and he said, "Hello," and walked past me, and yeah, I was an eager fan, but then we randomly met when my band was in Beacon, and we went to the open mic at the Town Crier, and then you invited us over to the shop to hang out for a little bit, and man, that was special. That really made my tour, made my year. I don't know. It was great to meet you then, and
Likewise, it was good to have you over.
I was just reading. I have this book, the Where Have All the Flowers Gone book, and I was reading the part about the song "Kisses Sweeter Than Wine," and then I just read your name in there, and I was like, oh wow, I met that fella.
Kisses Sweeter Than Wine is actually a song that's very near and dear to my family for an odd reason.
Yeah, do you mind sharing? I just remember as soon as I came in the shop, I picked a 12-string off the wall and started singing that song, you know?
Well, the thing is this, that when Lee Hayes of the Weavers was a young man, he was working in the sharecroppers movement, writing union songs, but things got kind of tough for him out in Arkansas, and they said, you ought to go to New York and share these union songs. And what they did is he had no money, but they found a bunch of friendly houses along the way where he could stay and make his way to New York. And eventually, of course, he did make his way to New York, and he met Pete Seeger, and he formed the Almanac Singers and so forth. But one of these friendly houses was a poet, and his wife and his kids. His name was Walter Lowenfels, and he had 4 kids, and 2 of them were twins, and the other 2 weren't, all girls. And Lee ended up staying there for 6 months. Anyway, later on, move ahead a bunch of years, and the Weavers suddenly, after World War II, the Weavers started having folk hits on the radio, and Decca Records realized there was potentially money in folk music, and they came to Pete and said, Jesus, Senate was a big hit, Goodnight Irene was a big hit, what else you got? And so he digged it into his folder of song ideas, and one of them was Kisses Sweeter Than Wine. It started out as an Irish lament about a cow, of all things, but Leadbelly and Pete had somehow worked it into Kisses Sweeter Than Wine.
Right.
They had a chorus, but they didn't have verses, so it was just a song idea. So Pete said to Lee, hey, can you work on this? Get me some verses. And so Lee started writing these verses. As you know, we have verses as, oh Lord, I was the father of twins, and my children numbered just about 4. And a lot of people believe that he was thinking of Walter Lowenfeld's family, 4 kids and 2 twins, and he was living there at the time pretty much.
Oh, okay.
And the reason it's near and dear to my family is the 2 twins were Mana and Judy. And Judy is my wife's mother. She's actually in my house right now.
Oh, wow.
And so that song was, one of the family favorites because she's one of the 2 twins mentioned in the song.
Wow, that's so wild. Yeah, I was just reading that he sang it at your wedding, and that's just
He did.
That's incredible. Wow, thank you for sharing that wonderful story. So you own the music shop in Beacon, Jake's Main Street Music, right? And
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, and check out Jake's Main Street Music on Beacon and on Main Street, and you're a musician and a banjo player and a producer but what was the first time you heard Pete's music and what drew you to it?
Well, it's also a kind of family thing. my father, his name was Harold Bernz. Harold, one of 7 kids, Jewish kids in Brooklyn. No real money. His own father worked in the garment district designing dresses. He got interested in the union movement because of all the tough conditions at the place that he worked. And it was right around the time that he was taking up guitar. So when he heard that there were people forming a union song magazine in New York City, it was eventually called the People Songs Bulletin. It was the precursor to today's Sing Out magazine. Anyway, he went and volunteered. And you know how it is with organizations. If you're willing to work, they put you to work. So within a few months, he was on the editorial board of the People Songs Bulletin, and he got to be friendly with all of the people involved, which included Pete Seeger and Fred Hellerman, and he even knew Woody Guthrie, and he met Leadbelly, and so on. So my father knew Pete. So when my father got married and moved out to Croton-on-Hudson, Pete, by that time was living in Beacon, which is not too far, both river towns. And Pete would stop by my house now and then. And so I kind of knew Pete growing up. And as I got old enough to play guitar and start learning folk songs, I got to realize how important he was. And there was always something incredibly magnetic about him. And it came from modesty, really. He was a really well-known guy who was very modest. He never touted his fame, and he never wanted people to lionize him and so forth. And yet, his musicality, his humanity, always shone through. And as he sang up and down the river for Clearwater as I was growing up, I realized that every event he sang at was not really a performance as much as a community gathering. And there was something wonderfully attractive about this, and I decided I wanted to know more, and that I wanted to know Pete more. And so I started volunteering for things. I volunteered for the revival, and he was always so busy at the revival, I decided to volunteer for the day before and the day after, when they had to do setup and cleanup. And so I ended up like driving garbage pails to Beacon with Pete and Toshi and storing them in the shed and so forth. And I just got to know him better over the years. And finally, when I moved to Beacon, not because Pete was here, but because it's where I could afford a house at the time. Beacon was sort of on hard times way back then. But there I was in Beacon, and Pete found out that I had a little home recording set up. He began to call me and say, can you record this, and can you record that? I need to record a song about Andorra and send it to the ambassador from Andorra, and I need to record answers to the questions about the civil rights movement that the BBC is sending, and my brother-in-law at the Smithsonian, he wants something recorded, and we just developed this relationship that was just wonderful.
Wow, that sounds like you got what you wanted and then some.
Way more. He gave me much more than I ever could have asked for.
Wow, that's incredible. That's really incredible. So would you share a favorite memory or a story that just whatever comes to mind just off the top of your head?
Well, the story that you reminded me of when you talked about the Weaver that's 65, it's both amazing and wonderful and happy, but also sad. But I'll share that with you. And then if my time is up, please tell me, because I don't want to take up too much time.
Oh no, this is a highlight, I would say. So no worries.
You mentioned seeing Pete at that concert with canes.
Yeah.
And helping him with his canes. I want to tell you that when I was interviewing Pete one day, one of the things I did was he would come over to record things, but he would inevitably start talking, and I would just leave the mic on, and I ended up with a wonderful set of recordings of Pete's spoken word, which I'm actually transcribing into a book. I don't have a title yet, but hopefully within a year I'll have a book. But anyway, the point of this is that one day he was talking about Woody Guthrie, and this show tonight is about Pete and Woody, so this is, I think, an appropriate story. And he said, yes, Woody taught me a lot about living. He was a little older than me, and he took me across country. He showed me how to sing in saloons. He said, don't be too eager, buy a nickel beer, sip it for a long time, put your banjo on the counter. Sooner or later, someone will come along and say, "Can you play that thing?" And you say, "Maybe, a little." You know, this is Woody teaching Pete how to coax dollars out of people when you need them. And but don't be too eager, and you don't pick it up, and you don't play it. And finally, someone will come up and say, "I'll give you a quarter if you play a song." And that's when you swing it out down and play your best song. So he was telling me these stories about him and Woody roaming and what Woody taught him. And at some point in the story, he told me about the first time he ever tried to hop off a freight train and how he broke his banjo. And it turned out he told me that he bought his very first 5-string banjo in a pawn shop on West 10th Street. And when I asked him what kind it was, he said it was a bottom-of-the-line SS Stewart, plain, nothing fancy at all, made at the turn of the century. And when I asked him what happened to it, he told me the story. The first time he tried hopping off a freight train with Woody Guthrie was outside of Lincoln, Nebraska. And he wasn't an expert, and he landed right on the banjo, snapped the neck in two. And he said that he then swapped a camera he had with him at a pawn shop to they had a guitar there, so he'd have something to play. But I said to Pete, "Well, what happened to the broken banjo?" And he said, "Well, I mailed it back to a girl I knew in New York at the time, but I never saw her again, or never saw the banjo again. But about 40 years later, she called me up about something, and I mentioned the banjo, and she said, 'Well, yeah, I did receive it, but it's been so long, I don't know where it's gone to.'" Now, that would normally have ended the story, but I said, "Well, Pete, I have to tell you something, because about 10 years ago, I'm talking about myself now, I was in a used instrument shop here in New York looking for a 5-string banjo, and the owner had a bottom-of-the-line, turn-of-the-century SS Stewart. And I asked how much it was, and he said, "It's only $200. And I said, "Why would you sell me a vintage banjo by a well-known maker for only $200? And he flipped it over, and he said, "Well, look, the neck's been snapped in two and re-glued, and I don't know when it happened or how it happened or who fixed it, and I can't stand behind it or guarantee it in any way. So that's why I'm letting it go for the low price." So I bought it. I said, "Pete, I bought this banjo. It's been sitting in my house for over 10 years. And he says, "You better bring me that banjo." So I brought it to him, and he turned it over, and his finger traced the snap line where the glue was, the glue line. And he said, "Oh, my gosh, this is exactly where mine snapped. It's exactly how it snapped. I think you got my banjo here." And I love to believe that somehow his first banjo found its way to him, in Beacon at the end of his life. So at the Weavers at 65, I told that story, and I thought this was going to be a great moment in the show. I would tell the story to the crowd, and then I would invite Pete up to stage and say, "Let's reunite Pete with his original banjo for a song." And I said that, and the crowd applauded, and I looked over, and somebody, maybe you, or maybe it was Tom Chapin or both of you, was helping Pete to get on the stage with 2 canes. Mm-hmm. Now, I had never seen Pete, and all of hundreds of times I played with him or worked with him, I had never seen him need a cane or any assistance from anybody to get up on a stage. So in what I thought was going to be a very triumphant moment in the show, it was a moment where I suddenly realized something was wrong with my friend Pete, that things were changing. And it turned out that was November. By December, he couldn't get out of bed. By January, he was having a heart operation, and by the end of January, he passed. So this was really the last time that I got to play with Pete, and I didn't know it at the time.
Wow. Well, I remember that moment vividly. It was a beautiful moment, nonetheless, my friend, and what a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that's such a great story. So what do you think we can do? I mean, I feel like the world really misses Pete quite a bit, and we need some more of his love and, humanity. And how do you think that we can continue Pete's dream of peace and a cleaner, better planet, and just be kind to one another? Like, what do you think that we can do nowadays, and how can we keep that dream alive?
Well, Tyler, I am not going to claim that I have the answers or that I have that level of wisdom. The only thing I can do is repeat a few things that Pete said so often that he began to call them his mantras at the end of life. One of them was to support little things. He said that they can stop a big thing. You know, the powers that be that are trying to keep the status quo can stop big things because they're very visible. But how do they stop a million little things? So don't be afraid to do small things or to be part of little organizations or and so forth that are trying to do pieces of good work here and there. Be part of those million little things. And the other thing is about communication, and this is the one that Pete really called his mantra, and I wish I could say it exactly, but paraphrasing Pete, he said that if the human race is going to be here in a couple of 100 years, there's going to have to be a revolution. Not a violent revolution, but what he would call the love revolution, or the willingness to communicate revolution, the willingness to speak with those with whom we disagree revolution. And that, you know, it may be through things that you have in common. It may be through music or cooking or painting or sports or any of the arts, which he felt were so important. But in today's world, today's country, today's USA, where we are so divided that we have to politicize the pandemic, so divided that we can't trust that a black person arrested in Minnesota will be safe. You know, so divided that Republicans and Democrats can't compromise in Congress to fix the most important things or to fix even this pandemic, and that people. I'm not talking about the politicians. People, my next door neighbors who supported Trump and I, are unable to talk to each other reasonably about it without getting excited. This must stop. Pete supported what he called the peace, not a Pollyanna type peace for everybody all the time, everything's wonderful, but what he called the peace of the bargaining table, which means the ability to sit down and have real communication with people whom you disagree with without it becoming hateful or violent or negative. So that's what we have to do, is be willing to communicate. And there's people guilty on both sides. You know, most of my friends are from the liberal or progressive or radical persuasion, and a lot of them can't talk to a Trump person. They only want to be friends with a Trump person. I can't subscribe to that. We all have to learn to talk with each other with respect.
Wow, I 100% agree with that, and that is such a good point and such a beautiful thing to take forth into the world, and I think that's a good place to stop. And I'm so grateful for your articulate, thoughtful answers and being so generous with your time and your incredible stories. I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait to reconnect with you. I'm going to come down to the Hudson Valley and hang out at the shop soon as we can, and I appreciate your time so much, and thank you.
Please do stop by. We'll put some great guitars, Collings or something in your hands. But also thank you for the work you're doing right now during this pandemic and otherwise, and for bringing the history and the music to people out there. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Have a wonderful night. Thank you for talking to me today. See you later.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. That was David Bernz. Those were some incredible stories, and wow, that was really pretty excellent. Well, thank you folks so very much. This is my 5th and final Roots Music Wednesday. I'm gonna be taking a break from doing these for a while. I might do them again, but who knows? And I want to thank you for tuning in, and for all your kind comments and generous donations, and for everything, really. And I hope that we can go out and see some live music soon, and I hope to see you all soon. and I'll be back, and I'll be doing some singing and playing on the Facebook Live and whatnot, and but I'm gonna leave you with one more tune. I'm gonna do this Lead Belly tune that Pete made famous, and here's Good Night, Irene, and thank you so very much, everybody. Really appreciate you. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene, good night. Irene, I'll see you in my dreams. Sometimes I live in the country, sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I have a great notion to jump into the river and drown. Quit your rambling, quit your gambling, quit your staying out late at night. Stay home with your wife and your family and sit by your fireside bright. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Well, I asked your mother for you. She said that you was too young. I wish to God I'd never seen your face. I'm sorry I was ever born. I love Irene, God knows I do. I love her till the seas run dry. If Irene turns her back on me, take morphine and die. He calls me to weep, he calls me to moan, leave my home, calls me to leave my home. One more song. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dream. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dream. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for all 5 weeks of Roots Music Wednesday. I love you. Thank you so very much. You guys are the best. I'll see you soon. Take care.